President Edgar Lungu will not be bullied into directing that action be taken against individuals cited in the Financial Intelligence Center report, State House has said. And government has withdrawn the bursaries for 5 UNZA students for their role in the recent riot at the Great East Road campus. UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema claims President Edgar Lungu is still after his life. And now the news in detail. State House says President Edgar Lungu will not be bullied into directing that action be taken against individuals cited in the Financing Trends report by the Finance Intelligence Center. Speaking to journalists shortly after the president's departure for Kenya for a private visit at the invitation of his Kenyan counterpart Uhuru Kenyatta, presidential spokesperson Amos Chanda says the president will not order the arrest of any individual. Mr. Chanda says President Lungu is not aware of the tax evasion income loss estimated at 4.5 billion kwacha as indicated in the FIC report. He states the president has not been briefed by investigative wings on the alleged tax fraud, corruption, tax evasion, and ordinary fraud indicated in the FIC report. Mr. Chanda says President Lungu would have issued investigative instructions had the report been tabled before him.
And the position of the president is that he does not take action on matters that have not been investigated by the law enforcement agencies, where he has not been advised whether there is a prima facie case or not. So the president is unaware of the tax evasion income loss of 4.5 billion. He is unaware of that. If the law enforcement agencies responsible for dealing with tax evasion that may or may not have led to the loss of those magnitudes that are in the FIC report, then ZRA must be asked. The civil society who are putting that demand on the president must put that demand on ZRA so that they can tell whether, in fact, the 4.5 billion loss has occurred. The fraud that has been alleged, the president does not know of any police report that is alleging fraud against any citizen, whether in government or in private sector. The president is unaware of the money laundering charges against any individual. So again, you members of the media must go and ask the DEC whether they have rendered a report to the president on money laundering and racketeering, which is in the domain of that. You can go and ask the ZRA Commissioner General or anyone who speaks for them whether in fact they have rendered any report on the revenue loss of 4.5 billion. The president, of course, would be concerned if that kind of money is being lost. But the president does not have the report, neither from the FIC nor from ZRI. Against the hypothetical characters X, Y, and Z. He must take action against who? The president must direct the police to go to law firm X, a private company, when he does not have a prosecutable offense against those. So what the position of the president is that he, in fact, he has no position on the FIC report because he has seen it only on online media and it has not been officially given to him. But even if it were given to him, he would not be, because he is never ever involved in directing specific action against individuals, against companies. So if the action, the disseminators, the action they intended was to generate the questions from civil society, perhaps the intended goal has been achieved. But the president cannot take a position on a report that has not been submitted to him. The report has been submitted to civil society. They are taking action. Probably that was the intention of the report. To try and bully him and stampede him into directing action on individual citizens. That he will not do because it's not his role as president.
The demand for accountability and transparency from government is commonplace in Zambia today. The church, political parties and the civil society organizations have become outspoken in advocating for the agenda on accountability. Our staffer Lazarus Sichula was at the Oasis Forum public discussion on accountability in Zambia and brought us this report.
The demand for accountability and transparency from government rages on. A crusade of civil society organizations, the church, political parties have risen with one accord to put government to task. Gathered here at a public discussion dubbed Accountability in Zambia, organized by the consortium Oasis Forum, these crusaders have convened to propose to government how issues such as misuse of public funds, corruption, and increase in public debt can be dealt with.
Debt management oversight systems must be strengthened. The Ministry of Finance needs to review and reform its ineffective debt management structure.
For political parties, their interest is to ensure that there is effective oversight mechanism to control the appetite of government to borrow. The civil society, on the other hand, is more concerned with issues of transparency and the fight against corruption.
If it is about those who are in the lower levels that are actually doing these funny things and costing us.
We need to also ensure that we don't fight the institution like the Financial Intelligence Center, like Wesley had indicated, but we should fight to fix the systems that have actually broken down.
The Global Corruption Barometer 2017 indicates that 20% of Zambians are likely to encounter a corruption situation when they go to seek a public service at a public institution.
The church, on its part, the venue and prayers is all the night could allow them to provide. The public discussion was at the Catholic Church's Kapingila House in Lusaka at no cost to the host. Lazarus Sichula, QTV News, Lusaka.
The Ministry of Higher Education has revoked bursaries for 5 University of Zambia students from being among the masterminds of last weekend's riot that followed a power outage at the Unza Great East Road campus. Higher Education Minister Professor Nkanduluo has told journalists in Lusaka that her ministry also commends Unza management for suspending the students for their barbaric behavior. Professor Luo says the 5 students will not be allowed in any public learning institution because such students do not value education. She says it is unfortunate that one of the damaged vehicles targeted by students during the riot was being driven by a woman who was taking her sick child to a health institution, and that the students could not heed her plea but rather opted to disturb her. Professor Luo has named the 5 students as Mishek Nakonde, Richard Malambo, Kelis Chilekwa, Muyende W, and Muyende Lifoke. More in the following report.
University of Zambia students on Saturday night blocked parts of the Great East Road and stoned motorists in a protest sparked by a 10-minute power outage. The riot, which caught motorists by surprise, was sparked by a power blackout that affected Unza, East Park Shopping Mall, and the surrounding areas. Sadly, during the riot, one of the vehicles damaged by the rioting students was driven by a woman who was taking her child to the clinic. The government, through the Ministry of Higher Education, feels that the behavior by the students was uncalled for, as they should have avoided attacking the harmless woman. To this effect, Minister of Higher Education Professor Nkanduluo has announced the suspension of bursaries for 5 Unza students for their involvement in last weekend's riot.
To this effect, I want to say that all those that have been identified to have participated in this behavior, and I'll call them by name, Emishe Kakonde, who is popularly known in Unza as Neighbors, a Richard Malambo, who is popularly known in the university as Buffalo, Kelis Chilekwa, who is popularly known as Chilepule Baby, Muyende W, who is popularly known as Pamukanjo, and Muyenga Lifuke, who is known as Mafifi, have with immediate effect lost their bursaries in this ministry. There is a 6th student who I'm following up and want to see to it that if in fact the evidence sitting on my table shows that he was also associated with this, he will in due course also lose his benefits from this ministry.
The minister has also discussed that all students at the University of Zambia main campus will pay for the damaged vehicles, not just for those who participated in the riot, because they know the students behind the act.
In fact, I forgot to say that as a result of this car, when it's brought to the university and we assess it, the students are going to pay, all of them, for the damage to that car or any other car that was damaged on that particular time. Every student will be charged and they will pay for the repairs of the vehicles that were damaged. And the reason why every student will be charged is because those who plan, when they are planning, their colleagues know.
The Higher Education Minister has also this warning to UNZA security.
So the UNZA Brown of Zambia, I want to warn them that my ministry will not support their payments if in fact they continue to sleep while on duty and expose innocent people on the street to our unruly students who continue to misbehave.
Professor Luo has further warned all students across the country that all those taking part in planning for the riots will not be spared, but that their bursaries will be revoked and not allowed in any public learning institution. For QTV News, Albert Mpezeni in Lusaka.
United Party for National Development UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema claims President Edgar Lungu is still after his life. Addressing journalists in Lusaka, Mr. Hichilema claims to have intelligence information suggesting that President Lungu regrets not having killed him while in detention. And Mr. Hichilema says he will apply for a police permit to hold a peaceful protest against what he has termed as wanton corruption in the PF government. He says he will follow the law and as prescribed under the Public Order Act to apply for a permit. The UPND leader has since called on Zambians to join him during the protests, saying it is their money that is being stolen by the PF administration. Mr. Hichilema has further called on the PF government to stop harassing Financial Intelligence Center Director General Mary Schumer for sharing the FIC, the 2017 Financing Trends Report, with the public. He says according to the investigations carried by his party, law enforcement agencies were furnished with the report 3 months before it was made public. And Mr. Hichilema says if given a chance to govern the nation, he will end political violence within 30 days of coming to power. He says political violence has persisted in the country because President Lungu has tolerated the scourge. Meanwhile, the UPND leader has proposed that the constitution be changed so that in an event an elected officer such as a member of parliament, mayor, council chairperson or councillor dies, the person who came out second should take over to avoid wasting resources through by-elections.
What has happened to us as citizens? Let me indicate to you, our investigation shows that the Financial Intelligence Center submitted this report to the law enforcement agency in accordance to the law over 3 months ago. They submitted. So that lie and the consequent arguments about it are invalid. This report was submitted over 3 months ago, and the law enforcement agencies have done nothing. So who should be taken to task? Is it the Financial Intelligence Center or the law enforcement agencies? And the leadership of this country, the so-called leadership of this country. So I am correcting that lie. Mr. Lungu is a beneficiary of violence. He knows if there was no violence, he would not win by-elections. He would not win any election. He knows that. So he would like to keep violence in place. Secondly, there's no leadership there. Probably that's the most important thing. There's no leadership. There was leadership in Mr. Mwanawasa. There's no leadership in Mr. Lungu. As simple as that. And I want to assure you, Zambians, when our time in office comes, we will provide the leadership. This thing will come to an end. 30 days is all we need to end this nonsense. 30 days. Leadership. Clarity. Not today, you're in Lusaka, you say it's PF UPND. You go to Mongu, you see the Barros planes, you're excited, you say, no, it's UPND. That's no leadership. That's a joke.
Losing UPND Kawata parliamentary candidate in the 2016 election, Mulenga Sata, has rejoined the ruling Patriotic Front. Mr. Sata, who once served as Lusaka mayor, has since declared his interest to contest the 26th July mayoral by-election. Speaking during a media briefing at the PF Secretariat in Lusaka, Mr. Sata says his heart desires to fulfill his dream of seeing a transformed Lusaka city. Mr. Sata says many of the plans and programs he initiated were not implemented when he served as Lusaka mayor for 7 months.
I know the entire face of Lusaka, and the majority of residents in Lusaka are familiar with both my name and face. Many plans and programs that were initiated were not implemented, as I only served for 7 months. My heart desires to fulfill my dream to see a transformed city of Lusaka. With that said, allow me to declare my interest to contest as mayor of Lusaka. As a mayor, and big councillors will attest. Councillors will attest that we had a cordial working relation with councillors and with party structures. Because the time I was mayor, I was also district chairman.
Meanwhile, former Permanent Secretary at Cabinet Office, Annie Mwewa, has also rejoined the ruling PF. Ms. Mwewa says she is happy to rejoin the ruling party as a prodigal daughter. And welcoming the duel to the party, PF Secretary General Davis Mwila assured them that they will enjoy the same rights and privileges as the members in the party. Mr. Mwila says both Mr. Sata and Ms. Mwewa are also free to contest for any party position in the forthcoming inter-party elections.
That I've always said, the boat is not yet full. All those who want to come to the party, you are most welcome. And two, you were once members of the party, so it's easier for you to come back. When you have a woman, you married a woman for 10 years, you divorce. She goes to her mother. It's easier for her to come So colleagues, you are part of the family. This country wants development. The people of Zambia wants development.
A report on the mining industry in Sinazongwe district has revealed that acts of corruption and bribery are rife in the employment process of local people at Mamba Collieries Limited, and that the salaries given to locals are very low. The report by the Council of Churches in Zambia and its partners, titled A Community Company Assessment of Coal Mining in Mamba in Sinazongwe district, has also revealed that there is nepotism among senior Zambian officials working at Mamba Collieries Limited. The report further reveals that it is always been difficult for the community members to access information about mining, which has translated into the deteriorating relationship between the two parties. Speaking during the presentation of the report, Southern Province Deputy Permanent Secretary Kennedy Muranga has observed that the relationship between companies and communities, if not guided by some trust and respect, will result in conflict. Mr. Mbanga says it is therefore important to understand the dynamics between communities and mining companies to avoid, mitigate, or adequately compensate for negative impacts of mining, as well as maximize benefits towards equitable development. He says in order to address this mistrust and misinformation, it is recommended that a social impact survey be conducted and a platform for interaction be formulated so as to respond to the pending challenges. Mr. Manga has commended the Council of Churches in Zambia (CCZ) and its partners for taking a special interest in advocating for transparency and accountability in the management of mineral resources in Zambia.
The relationship between companies and communities, if not guided by some trust and respect, will result in conflicts between the two parties. Ladies and gentlemen, it is therefore important to understand the dynamics between communities and mining companies. This will help us avoid or mitigate or adequately compensate for negative impacts of mining, as well as maximize benefits towards equitable development. The research revealed that there were mistrust and misinformation among key stakeholders on the benefits accrued from the mining. The relationship between companies and communities, if not guided by some trust and respect, will result in conflicts between the two parties. Ladies and gentlemen.
Speaking at the same event, CCZ Southern Province Chairperson Elijah Sekovwaza says a community company assessment seeks to find constructive and peaceful solutions to divergent communities, government and company respective perspectives in multiple contexts. Mr. Sekovwaza says the increased investment in coal mining represents opportunities for national transformation and economic growth. Thus, the report should be taken seriously for the betterment of the communities in the area. A 2-year-old child has been burnt to death after a house caught fire in Chongwe. Police Assistant Spokesperson Godfrey Chilabi has told Q News that the incident happened on the 13th of June around 20 hours. Mr. Chilabi says it's suspected that the fire was caused by a brazier which was left burning in the house where the child was sleeping. He says investigations into the matter have been instituted while the body of the minor is lying in Chongwe District Hospital mortuary awaiting postmortem. First Lady Esther Lungu has reaffirmed her commitment to supplement government's efforts in reducing maternal and child mortality rates in the country. And the First Lady says she remains committed to advocating for the elimination of malaria by the year 2021 and reaching the epidemic control of HIV. She says this will be done with support from the Ministry of Health and engagements with Project Cure, City Hope, and Children's Hospital Colorado. Meanwhile, Mrs. Lungu has thanked the American government for its support in strengthening Zambia's health sector. She was speaking when she officiated at the Zambia and America's Partnership in Global Health meeting in Lusaka.
People advocate for safe motherhood and child survival in Zambia due to the position I have been entrusted as First Lady of the Republic of Zambia. My office, working together with the Ministry of Health and the Esther Lungu Foundation Trust, will fully support and engage with Project Q, City Hope, and Children's Hospital Colorado in implementing the government to achieve, in complementing rather, our government to achieve our goals on health service delivery. As a country, we have committed to reduce maternal mortality, to reduce child mortality, to eliminate malaria by the year 2021, and to reach the epidemic control of HIV. Ladies and gentlemen, these ambitions, but very achievable goals, will only be attained by availing universal health care to Zambians, and therefore partnerships such as the ones we celebrate today remain vital going forward.
Speaking at the same meeting, Health Minister Dr. Ashtalu Chirufya says Zambia's resource basket is inadequate, which has prompted the country to place a premium on countries and organizations that have an effective health strengthening agenda. He has since commended the First Lady for linking Zambia to a number of players in the global health arena. And American Ambassador to Zambia, Daniel Foote, has reaffirmed the American government's commitment to support health programs in Zambia. Mr. Foote says America's major investment in Zambia is to protect and advance Zambia's human resource through effective health promotion.
Priority in Zambia is to protect and advance Zambia's most important human resources, which is, of course, the Zambian people, through health endeavors like the one we're talking about today. The partnership between the First Lady's Foundation, Zambia's Ministry of Health, Project Cure, City Hope, and the Denver Children's Hospital was inspired by Her Excellency First Lady Esther Lungu. The generous support from these American organizations, which makes me proud to be an American, will provide medical equipment, pharmaceuticals, and training in emergency care. This exciting new partnership builds on a successful history of public-private partnerships in Zambia and the long-term support the U.S. government has provided to Zambia's health sector. Zambia has the fourth highest incidence rate of cervical cancer in the world at 36.7 per 100,000 women. For the past 10 years, the United States government, through the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, with funding from the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, as you know as PEPFAR, and working with partners such as the Pink Ribbon, Red Ribbon, and key public-private partnerships, has provided technical and monetary assistance to the cervical cancer screening program in Zambia, screening almost 300,000 women today, training over 300 government healthcare providers, and opening over 70 screening clinics in government facilities in all 10 of Zambia's provinces.
So our development agenda anchors on a critical determinant of productivity, that is a healthy labor force. And that's what brings us together here. We recognize that our treasury, our resource basket is inadequate, so we place premium on partnerships with organizations and countries that promote the common aspirations of our people. And that's why global health is such an important aspect of our health system strengthening agenda. Madam First Lady, you have been the champion for global health, and you've linked us to a lot of players in the global arena, and with your support, thousands of lives are being saved in this country. We recognize you as a champion of global health. Madam First Lady, allow me to recognize the role that the American government and the people of America have played in strengthening health systems.
However, Southern Africa Regional Manager William Chilufya has described as regressive the decision by government to revert to 40% of farmers who were on the e-voucher to conventional farmer input support program (FISP). Mr. Chilufya has told journalists that reverting back to the conventional FISP will be costly and time-consuming on the part of government, as this will entail having middlemen, the need for transportation, and storage facilities. He says government should have instead worked on the teething problems identified in the e-voucher system instead of reverting to the old system. Mr. Chilufya adds that the decision to revert back to the conventional FISP will affect government's diversification agenda, as farmers will be limited when it comes to the choice of crops to farm.
We also think that the move will actually increase the cost of production, in the sense that government this time will have to think about transport to deliver these inputs, and secondly, the government will also have to think about the storage. And we know for sure that transport costs a lot. And as it is today, we hear that government has not yet paid some of the transporters that were transporting under the old FISP. With the e-voucher system, all these problems would not be there. In this day and age, again, where the president is encouraging Zambians to engage in smart enterprises, we think going back to the old FISP really is very retrogressive. How we wish that the government would have explored ways of working with mobile networks, because we believe that in most parts of this country there are mobile networks. So it's important that the government doesn't go back to the old system, one, to save money and implement in other ventures to improve our culture system.
Oxfam Zambia Executive Director Dilas Judge has urged the government to honor the Maputo Declaration to allocate not less than 10% of the total budget to the agriculture sector. Ms. Judge tells QTV News that once this is met, the number of farmers to benefit from the Farmer Input Support Program will increase. She says the agriculture sector is a backbone of the country's economy, hence the need to give it the necessary attention. Ms. Judge is encouraging the government to consider increasing the investment to the agriculture sector, as this will benefit the nation.
So we are aware that the government has made that decision to reduce the number of beneficiaries on FISIP, and as Oxfam we feel that initially the investment that was made was not even adequate. Government was targeting 1 million farmers, and in that 1 million farmers, if you look at the amount of money that was benchmarked, it's not enough to uplift any farmer from being a small-scale producer to one that would produce for income. So definitely lowering the numbers is not the way to go. I think that the government should live up to the expectation as per what we've signed up to in the Malabo Declaration and the Maputo Declaration, that we should invest at least 10% of the national budget into agriculture. So what we would have seen is an increase into the number of farmers that would be benefiting. So
Sinazongwe Member of Parliament Gift Sialubalo says hunger is looming in Sinazongwe due to the anticipated low crop yields from 2017-2018 farming season. Mr. Sialubalo tells QTV News that this is attributed to the chaotic implementation of the e-voucher system, coupled with the dry spells experienced in the area during the past farming season. He has appealed to the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit DMMU to move in and assess the hunger situation and possibly supply the people with relief food. Mr. Sialubalo has also suggested that the government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, considers reverting all the farmers in Sinazongwe district back to the conventional FISP, saying they do not trust the electronic system. He has further called on the government to ensure that the farmers have the inputs before September 2018 to enable them plan well.
2018-2019 in Mazongwe, we expect to go back to a conventional way of getting inputs, because this vouchers tremendous fail the people of Mazongwe. And as I'm talking to you, even the harvest, apart from the partial drought we experienced, there will be hunger in Mazongwe. So DMMU should move in to alleviate the situation. So 2018-2019 farming season, we urge the government to go back to the conventional way. And take for instance, by September, October, people should have gotten their inputs. So that, and unlike where a situation where farmers come to get their inputs in March, April, that's having time. That's harvesting time. So you don't give, what can someone do? It's already late. So we expect by October to November, people should have their inputs.
Health Professional Council of Zambia HPCZ Chief Executive Officer Dr. Aaron Mujajati says the council has engaged the Zambia Environmental Management Agency ZEMA with a view to ensure the proper disposal of medical waste. Dr. Mujajati tells QTV News that disposing of medical waste is a very serious problem that needs serious attention and concerted efforts. He says the council has observed that this is a very serious health hazard that should be dealt with accordingly in order not to risk the lives of the people. Dr. Mjajati says the council wants to ensure that medical waste such as syringes are disposed of in a proper manner.
One of the areas we are actively working on as a council has to do with the disposal of medical waste. Now remember that we do this in concert with ZEMA. And the Health Professions Council and ZEMA, we are in talks to try and strengthen our collaboration in how we deal with disposal of medical waste. It's a very serious problem, and it's a very serious health hazard that you have observed. And as a council, those are some of the areas we are trying to tighten. And if you noticed, These are issues that we are following up very actively. There is a case right now which I cannot talk about, which has come to our attention, where there's been indiscriminate disposal of medical waste, and which is also causing a bit of a problem for the public. But until we are done with this case, and we've reached a logical conclusion on our investigations, then will we come back to you and show you exactly what we are doing. But this is something that
Solidarity Network Foundation has signed a memorandum of understanding with Essential Commodities aimed at supporting the growing of soybeans and aquaculture. The MOU also includes support towards the growing of sesame fruits and vegetables. Solidarity Network Foundation has also signed another MOU with UBA Bank Zambia, the Cotton Association of Zambia, and Mubwa Farmers Generate. Speaking during the signing ceremony, Solidarity Network Foundation Regional Director Mandla Nkomo said the MOUs are a starting point and a step in the quest to support farmers in Zambia. Mr. Nkomo says the agreements signed will be replicated in other parts of the country besides Mumbwa, which is the starting point.
They'll be able to buy goods and services. They'll be able to send their children to school, and the result is that we'll be able to diversify the Zambian economy away from minerals to something more sustainable, like agriculture and agro-processing. So in Solidaridad, our view is that the partnerships we are creating today are therefore a starting point and the first step on a journey that we hope is going to see this being replicated in other districts across the country as well. And I'm grateful for the support that the local government in this country also gives to such initiatives. I've not been to a meeting.
And in a speech read for him by the acting UBA Zambia Chief Executive Officer Catherine Chola, UBA Zambia Chief Executive Officer Emeke Dumanochi said the signed MOUs are meant to ease banking services to farmers.
This is at the core of our philosophy as UBA. We seek to continuously develop banking solutions that will ease transactions for the bank's numerous users, while ensuring utmost safety of their transactions. In keeping with our customer-first philosophy, the ease and safety should apply to any customer of the bank, regardless of their situation, location, whether they are in Lusaka or indeed in Mumbwa. They should be able to transact with ease.
As we're in the news, a recap of the headlines. President Edgar Lungu will not be bullied into directing that action be taken against individuals cited in the Financial Intelligence Center report, State House has said. Government has withdrawn the bursaries for 5 UNZA students for their role in the recent riot in the Great East Road campus. And UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema claims President Edgar Lungu is still after his life. That's all we had for in the news. Pleasant viewing.